The world has been waiting. Hearts that broke during the Last Supper are still trying to heal, yet whispers of what comes next are already stirring the air. What if I told you that the next chapter of The Chosen will not only test your faith but redefine what you thought you knew about sacrifice, loyalty, and love? Season 6 isn't just another continuation. It's a storm on the horizon, one that promises to shake every heart that dares to watch. From the moment The Last Supper aired, fans were left in silence. We saw laughter fade into sorrow, unity break under pressure, and hope flicker like a candle in the wind. But what's coming next will take that flame and hold it to our hearts until we feel the weight of every decision ever made by those who followed him. The next season dives directly into the most sacred and devastating moments of this story, the crucifixion arc. But this won't be told through violence or spectacle. Instead, it will unfold through the quiet ache of emotion, the unspoken pain in every look, and the fragile thread of faith holding the disciples together when the world begins to crumble. What happens when the miracles stop and the waiting begins? What happens when faith is no longer a feeling but a choice? Dallas Jenkins, the creator behind The Chosen, has made one thing clear: this will not be a retelling. It will be a reckoning. Instead of relying on the familiar images we've seen countless times, he's chosen to focus on what lies within. The fear. The love. The confusion. The heartbreak. The crucifixion will not be shown as a single moment of pain, but as an emotional storm built over years of friendship, doubt, and devotion. Every conversation we've watched, every tear shed in earlier seasons, will now come full circle. And if you think you're ready for that, think again. Even the cast has admitted that filming these moments left them drained. Noah James, who plays Andrew, revealed how he had to dig deep into his own roots, drawing from his Jewish heritage during the Passover sequences. His goal wasn't to act, but to honor, to ensure that every gesture, every silence, carried truth. Elizabeth Tabish, portraying Mary Magdalene, continues to break hearts across the world. Her transformation from brokenness to redemption has always been one of the series' most powerful journeys. But this time, her story steps into something even more profound, a confrontation between memory and faith. As the crucifixion nears, Mary's devotion will be tested in ways she never imagined. It's not just a story of what happens to Jesus. It's about what happens to everyone who loved him. Each disciple will face a moment where belief collides with fear. Where the promise of salvation feels distant. Where love and betrayal sit at the same table. And through it all, viewers will walk beside them, feeling every heartbeat, every hesitation, every ounce of human frailty that makes this story so painfully real. But this is only the beginning. Because beyond the heartbreak lies something bigger, something that's already changing the way faith-based storytelling is seen around the world. What began as a small crowd-funded dream has grown into a global movement that few could have predicted. The Chosen isn't just a television series anymore. It's a mirror held up to humanity, reminding us that the struggle between doubt and devotion is timeless. More than 200 million people have already walked this path together. Every episode, every scene, has crossed borders and broken barriers. From quiet living rooms to massive theaters, people have gathered not just to watch but to feel something real. There's a reason the show's success has left even Hollywood astonished. It wasn't backed by massive studios or billion-dollar campaigns. It was built by people who believed in the story, who gave not for fame, but for faith. And that belief became its foundation. Season 6 now stands as the culmination of that faith. A season built not on spectacle, but on sincerity. The world will witness the heartbreak of the crucifixion told through eyes filled with love, not through scenes drenched in blood. Dallas Jenkins and his team are crafting this season as a sacred experience, not just for Christians but for anyone who's ever wrestled with loss, purpose, or hope. The intention isn't to preach but to connect, to show how humanity bends under grief yet somehow still reaches for light. And as the story unfolds, the emotional weight will deepen. Every relationship we've seen will face a test. Peter's leadership. John's faith. Mary's strength. Judas's torment. Each moment feels like the tightening of a thread that we know is about to snap, yet we can't look away. The storytelling has matured too. Where earlier seasons explored discovery and calling, this one digs into endurance and sacrifice. We'll see the disciples not as distant figures in history, but as human beings breaking under pressure, holding on to faith by the thinnest thread. And just when despair feels final, a whisper of resurrection begins to take shape. That is where Season 7 will rise, with Easter weekend 2028 already marked for its release. Where Season 6 brings us to the edge of heartbreak, Season 7 will pull us back into light. Together, they form a perfect circle, pain followed by redemption, darkness followed by dawn. The beauty of this plan lies in its patience. The creators aren't rushing to the end. They're letting the weight of every moment settle so deeply that when hope returns, it will feel earned. Across the globe, fans are already preparing themselves emotionally for what's to come. Many know the story by heart, yet this telling promises something entirely new, a version where emotion, not imagery, leads the way. And that's why The Chosen has transcended being just a show. It's become a shared spiritual event. A tapestry of belief and emotion woven by millions who see themselves in its story. Every generation has a retelling of this journey, but few have captured it with such honesty. This time, the story isn't about divinity shining above us. It's about divinity walking beside us, tired, afraid, faithful, and human. Because in the end, the heart of The Chosen isn't about miracles. It's about what happens after the miracle ends. The closer we move toward the crucifixion, the heavier the air becomes. You can almost feel it, the weight of destiny pressing on every heart. The disciples don't yet know the full measure of what's coming, but deep down, they sense it. Every glance, every silence, every breath carries the ache of something final. And we, the audience, feel it too. Because The Chosen has done what few stories ever could. It's made us care so deeply that even the smallest moment feels sacred. When Jesus sits with his friends, when a tear escapes from Mary's eyes, when the sound of footsteps echoes in the dark, it's as if time itself pauses. This is more than a show. It's a living memory retold for a world that desperately needs hope. Season 6 will not be easy to watch. It isn't meant to be. It's meant to remind us of the cost of love, of what it truly means to give everything for others. But even in the sorrow, there will be beauty. Because every loss, every heartbreak, is leading towards something greater. When the final scenes arrive in theaters on March 12, 2027, they won't just mark the end of a season. They'll mark the beginning of reflection, a collective moment when millions around the world sit in silence, connected by a story that has carried humanity for 2,000 years. And then, beyond that silence, resurrection waits. Season 7, set to release on Easter weekend 2028, promises to lift the world again, not with spectacle, but with hope. The light that flickered in Season 6 will burst back into brilliance, reminding us all that faith doesn't end in death. It begins again in life renewed. The beauty of The Chosen lies in its honesty. It doesn't ask us to be perfect believers. It simply invites us to feel, to doubt, to break, and then, to believe again. So the question remains, are you ready for what's coming? Are you ready to walk through the darkest valley knowing that light is waiting on the other side? Are you prepared to see the story not as something distant, but as something living within you? Because this journey is not just about Jesus. It's about every person who has ever searched for meaning in pain. Every soul who has ever wondered if their faith could survive heartbreak. The coming season will ask us all to look inward. To find the part of ourselves that still hopes when everything else falls apart. If the Last Supper made us weep, Season 6 will make us tremble. Not out of fear, but out of awe for the love that endured the cross. And when it ends, we will not leave empty. We will leave changed. So stay close. Keep your heart open. Because what's coming is not just a story on a screen. It's a reflection of every soul that has ever dared to believe. Faith will be tested. Tears will fall. But in the end, hope will rise. And that is the power of The Chosen. A story that refuses to end, because it was never meant to.